Okay, so you're here in the Philippi Horticultural Area. Our campaign, the Philippi Food and Farming, the PHA Food and Farming campaign has been trying to protect this area from land invasions, from housing developments, because we want to have a farming livelihood for our people here. Yeah? Now, why is it that we have to change the way we farm? Because the way we are farming by using the chemical fertilizers is destroying the soil. Here's a good example. Over the world, farmers are using over $100 billion worth of fertilizers to put in the soil to make the plants grow. Now, this is contaminating the drinking water. It's going into the drinking water. It also runs off into the rivers, into lakes, and even into seas, in such a way that it's become a big problem. It kills the fish, it makes algae bloom, and removes oxygen out of the water, right? But now the funny thing about the fertilizer is that it's so stupid. Because we now know that when a farmer puts in fertilizer in the soil to make the plants grow, only 10% to 40%, depending what you're growing, the plant is taking up. In other words, the plant is fertilizer, the plant is giving you a tomato. Yeah? But the other 90 to 60% of the fertilizer, the plant don't want it. He don't want it. He just leave it. So basically what you're doing is you are spending so much money on fertilizer, but almost 90% of the fertilizer is going to waste. That's why farmers are complaining it's so expensive to farm these days. If they only understand that they are wasting the money on fertilizers. Yeah? And we have all these problems with the fertilizer, which is damaging the soil. And then farmers are using pesticides. And pesticides is spray for the hojas. Yeah? And in traditional cultures, indigenous communities, before the advent of modern agriculture, farmers understood what was happening in the soil, what was happening with the insects. They had names for all the insects. And they had a way of dealing with the insects without spraying chemicals. Then Mlungu came and said, hey, that's wrong. Yeah? You must use pesticides. But you must buy it from me. See? So now you're buying fertilizer, you're buying pesticides. And now it's costing a lot of money. Now you're selling tomatoes, the tomatoes are very expensive. And all the pesticides also destroying the soil. It's killing the bees, the birds, the worms. It's really destroying everything. And it's also going into our bodies. It's not good for us. Now by using all this fertilizer, using all these pesticides, you see what's happening here? Our soil here is very degraded. The United Nations says our soil is one of the worst soils in the whole world. Because not only did we have an apartheid against people, we also had apartheid against the soil. Yeah? Now they see how we look. We're looking like very badly because we are using the wrong methods of farming. And because we're using the wrong methods of farming, the food that we are eating have less nutrition in it. Here's a nice study that shows from 1940 to 1991, people are doing studies to see what's inside the food. You know, when we eat food, we're eating copper, we're eating calcium, we're eating iron, we're eating manganese. That's the medicine we eat from the food. Yeah? Not only the carrot, but inside the carrot, all these things are there that keep making us healthy. Now, the way we are farming, we're destroying that. We're making the carrot look the same, even it looks more beautiful now, but inside is not so good anymore. So really we have to think about going back into our ancestors, into our old practices and learn from our ancestors and how they practiced, right? We have a rich farming tradition in South Africa. Here is a good example of one which is called the Bokoni Stonewall Settlement between the 16th and the 19th century. When the colonizers came here, they destroyed this. So these people were growing food, They were having a settlement. They were living there. They had animals. They had livestock. They grew millet. They grew cassava, etc., etc. Right? So we had this tradition where the local indigenous communities had a very important understanding of the land. And they look after the land because they know if they look after the land look after them. Right? So we have to go back to that kind of thinking, right? But doesn't mean we must now say, oh, we're going backwards. No, 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 no. Now today, the old traditions of farming, even now the scientists are saying, you know, that people were doing that, they were right. Now the new scientists are saying those practices that the indigenous and local communities were practicing was actually the right practice. They understood better about the soil and about the land than what we did. And even now they are changing. So, in farming, when you're farming a garden plot or a piece of land this size, or even 10 hectares or whatever, right? There are two important things that you are worried about. How to get nitrogen for the plants to grow healthy, to give you nice mealies, to give you nice tomato, to give you nice apples or bananas. Ne? Nitrogen is important. Ne? But in nature, the nitrogen is actually in the soil. It's there. So what we do is we put in compost in the soil and then we add more nitrogen. Compost is your nitrogen. What this all means, levels of soil organic carbon is in that compost pile. Ne? Increase and decrease were together with organic nitrogen. In other words, the more compost you put in, the more nitrogen you will get. The less compost you put in, the less nitrogen you get. Very simple. Ne? Now we're not talking about fertilizer, we're talking about compost. Ne? As nitrogen. Then the other thing that farmers always worry about, oh, we got this pest. We must go to the agri-mark and buy a spray. You must spray the pest, kill the pest. But now you kill one pest, but you also kill all the friendly insects. Ne? I'll give you an example. So in nature, there is no pest. God didn't create pests. God didn't create weeds. Every plant have a place in the nature. Our God is not stupid. You know, we think we are clever. Right? So in nature, for example, I'll give you an example. In nature, there is a ladybug. Anybody seen this ladybug already? No? Now this ladybug, when they come to your garden, they come to your garden because there are plants in your garden which they like. Some of the plants are sunflowers. There's about a dozen of them plants. Coriander is another plant. Ne? So when these plants are in your garden, they come to your garden because they like that plants. But when they come into your garden for that plants, they also eat the aphids. And the aphids is eating all your cabbages, your cauliflower, your broccoli. They love it. So when you plant more plants that bring the ladybugs into your garden, the ladybugs take care of the pest. It's God. That's how God works. Now man think, oh, he's clever. No, we will just spray something. But somebody's making money to sell you the spray. Yeah? Yeah, nature can take care of everything for you. But you must understand nature. If you see a pest in your garden, and you identify the pest, oh, this pest, maybe it's an aphid. Then you must go and research. Or ask your elders, hey, what did you do when you had this pest in your garden? They will tell you, no, that ladybugs, you must try to get ladybugs there. Because they will also remember how they farmed before. But we also have now Google. Yeah? Our ancestors also got Google. We can even ask Google. If you have a pest, we see what in nature is eating that pest. What in nature is eating that pest? Then Google will tell you. See? Then the next question you must ask is, so what plant must I have in my garden to bring that nice insect into my garden that's going to eat the pest? See, it's very simple. You know, this is so simple, nobody can make money off this. No, God created, for every one pest, there's 1,700 beneficial insects. So when I have one pest in your garden, you want to spray that pest, but you're also killing all the nice insects. See? So we must be careful about that. So here's two things: nitrogen, compost, not fertilizer. You make your own nitrogen with the compost, because from the things that you have around the house, your food waste, your garden waste, and the weeds and so from the garden, you make compost. I'll show you guys now. Then the pest, you think about pest differently. Think there is no pest. There's only something eating something, right? So now you must see what is that thing and what must you bring, what can eat that thing, and how you can bring that insect into the garden. Yeah? And if you do all of that, you see, you start to build your soil. Then you build your soil with a lot of compost. Then you will use less water to use on the garden for your crops, because now you got a lot of compost in the soil. So you use less water. And if you do all of that stuff, here's a beautiful study that shows you about carrots. I like the study, because this study shows if we change the way we farm, we don't use chemicals, we don't use pesticides, don't use nitrogen, then the food coming out of there is much more healthier, right? So here is a nice study done by the food, I'll get the study name now, but it's in America. They did a study on carrots and cabbage, carrots and spinach. Here they show that when you eat carrots, you eat all of this. Yeah. This is your medicine. This is what you eat in the carrots. It's got antioxidants, polyphenols, calcium, copper, potassium, sulfur, and zinc. That is your medicine that you're eating. The carrot is tasting nice in the mouth. Your tummy is very happy, but also your body is getting healed because of this medicine. Now, this study shows that antioxidants, what is antioxidants? Antioxidants is those molecules that fight free radicals in your body, that fight cancer cells, fight nasty cells in your body. That's what antioxidants does. No? So here they show the antioxidants in carrots. And they show the difference between if you eat a carrot from healthy soil, you don't use fertilizer, you don't use pesticides, you put a lot of compost in, that carrot, you eat one of that carrot, has got all these properties, no? Compared to you have to eat 90 of the carrots of the farm that is using chemicals and fertilizers. Am I making myself clear? Yeah? If the carrot is coming from good soil, one carrot is equal to 90 of eating 90 carrots from the other farm, which is growing with chemicals and fertilizers. It's not me saying this, eh? It's not me. People are studying this stuff now. Yeah? Amazing, right? It's amazing, right? So that's why we have to change the way we farm. Remember now, we're eating stuff now, but we're still hungry. Why? Because their nourishment is not in the food anymore. That's the problem. Now we're getting fat, but it's not really a healthy food anymore. Because your stomach is asking for more calcium, your stomach is asking for more copper, your stomach is asking for more sulfur, zinc, iron, but it's not getting it. So your mind is saying, I want more. See? In spinach, right? You're eating polyphenols, copper, iron. You know what's iron? No, spinach. Iron. Né? Manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, selenium, sulfur. There's all the medicine in the spinach that you're eating. That's why spinach is so nice. Né? You have to eat 14 spinach leaves from a farm is using chemicals and fertilizers compared to one leaf from a healthy soil. Just one leaf. The same medicine in a one leaf than in 14 leaves of. You know, you can save a lot of money, ne? You go to the shop. You go to the shop, you can save a lot of money. You just ask for healthy food, ne? So I want to share this with you. It's why we have to change the way we're farming. We have to change it because the food is not good anymore, and we are responsible for fixing that. Compost making. What is compost? Basically, compost is just taking all your organic waste in the garden, your food waste. We're going to have bananas and we're going to have Nikes now, right? And we can just take the peels. It's waste. But it's not really waste. In God's design, that thing is giving new life. Yeah? That waste is not waste. It gives new life. So looking at the grasses you're pulling out of the ground, the weeds that you don't want in the beds, the pieces of the trees that you're chopping maybe, all of those things are all part of the compost. Even, you know, when your child maybe didn't eat all the food, maybe the food fell on the floor, even that food can go in a compost. It can make soil. So all that material, right, comes to this. So that when you look at the compost from start, you'll see leaves, you'll see rice, you'll see banana peels. When it's finished, you will not see that. You will only see this. Right? And I'll show you a method where you don't even smell anything. Sometimes people say, oh, the compost is smelling. But it's because they're not doing it right. I'll show you the right method of doing it. So it never smells, it doesn't attract any flies. Yeah? So basically, your raw material for the compost is food waste, yard waste, manure, agricultural waste, municipal organic waste. You know, if you're in a rural area, somebody always have a cow, or a goat, or sheep. That manure is so important. You must go and collect it. It's like gold. Yeah? So that is the materials. Then what you do is, you put the raw materials in a pile. Then over time, the pile becomes compost, right? Now, there are two ways of it becoming compost. One is the natural way, where you throw all the ingredients, your food waste, your grass clippings, your leaves, you throw in a corner and you make a pile and you leave it. That's a natural way. But it's a slow way. The other way is a controlled way, where you make the pile in such a way that it becomes compost fast. Yeah? There's two ways. You want raw organic material to compost pile, and you can do it in two ways. So what's happening between the stage when it's raw and it's compost? Inside the compost, you have soil bacteria, you have fungus, you have all these hojas going inside there. They're eating stuff, they're breaking things down. Ne? You can't see them, but if you do this, you see they're running around. Ne? Their job is to break this compost down, break the leaves down, break the bananas down. Then you don't even see it anymore as a banana leaf, a banana peel. Ne? That's their job. No? This is God's creatures. They are there. They have a job to do. Ne? That's their job. Then what happens is, when you make a pile, the pile gets hot, right? If you're making the control method, then you make a pile, and I'll show you the control method. You make the pile, it gets hot. After 3 days, you put your hand in the center, it burns. Because inside there's other organisms. They like fire, they like heat, and they are there, they're breaking things down fast. Ne? So in that heat, you kill all the pathogens, all the diseases. Ne? And you're killing the seeds. Maybe there's weed seeds inside there. Now you don't want to put the compost on the land, then the weeds come up. So the hot way is to kill the weed seeds. And then also break down all the compounds in the pile. And then the pile, you see these guys here. This is a very long word. Even me, I don't understand it. But thermal means heat. It's bacterial organisms in the pile that like heat. They are breaking things down. Ne? And then you add oxygen and you add water. Oxygen is when you turn the pile. Now you're giving extra oxygen. And you water it. You give water. Oxygen and water brings that heat bugs. They come alive. Ne? That breaks down the pile very quickly. It's very simple. There's a big science behind it. But me, I don't want to hear the science. I just want to hear a picture, how it's working. Because I know it's working. Ne? So there are two ways of making it. You can have a compost pile that you can stand there for 1 year. For 1 year, you can stand there. Depending on the effort you want to put in, you can have a compost pile standing for 1 year, or you can have a compost finished in 18 days. Depending on the amount of effort you want to put in. Okay? Now, why do we have to make compost? Because when we are having food waste and peels and all of these things, we throw in a bin. The council come, they pick up that bin, they pick up all that, ne? They take it to the landfill. Now, in the landfill, it's creating a lot of gases. It doesn't want to be there. So it's creating nasty gas. It tells you, hey, I don't want to be here. I'm going to give you nasty gases now. So giving you CO4, which is 20 times more powerful than CO2. Methane is 20 times more powerful than CO2, right? But if you make it into compost, you're putting all that carbon in the soil. It's happy there as compost. Ne? And in this way, agriculture can help with climate change. Everybody knows climate change, eh? Climate change is the way we are farming, the way we are living. We are giving so much CO2 into the atmosphere. It's changing the climate, the weather. Sometimes you don't even understand why it's raining so much. When I was small, it was rain differently. Now, suddenly one day you have whole months rain in one day. That's climate change. Yeah? So it's the way we are living that's causing climate change. Now, the way we are farming, if we change the way we're farming, we can help to stop climate change. Because we're taking the carbon, we put it in the soil. We don't put it in landfill. Understand? So this is just a slide for another time. But I want to put this there because it's important to understand we must go back to how our ancestors farmed. You know, our ancestors did a lot of grazing. Why did it grazing? Because they understood if you leave your animals one place, in one day all the grass is finished. Then it becomes a desert. So they took animals one day there, one day there, one day there, you know, because they understand that grass must come back. You can't kill that grass, right? So now the farmers have changed that. Now they say, oh, we got to put up a fence here, put up a fence. This is my land. I put my animals there. Then after a year, all the grass is dead. Then they must give the animals feed. Yeah? So in the old ways of doing things, it was a good way, right? So there are also other things that our ancestors did, which was good. They used crop rotation. They didn't plant one thing at the same place. They always planted different things. They always used soil cover. And they integrated the animals in between the crops. Because they understood the animal's popo is good for the soil. Right? So these are things that over and above the compost that you must also do in your garden. So I'm just parking it here. We have to think about not tilling the soil. You guys are from the Eastern Cape, right? Yes. Eastern Cape soil, I think they call it the Balfour soil. It's a very thin soil. It hasn't got a lot of organic matter. So that's why it gets erosion very quickly. So previous ancestors, they didn't till the soil. They understood this. So we must go back to thinking about how we don't till the soil. When we plant, You plant one day carrots here. You can't plant another carrot after that. You must plant something else. So you have four. You have a root vegetables, you have a fruit, you have leaf, and you have beans, legume. And you must always change that. If you plant one crop here in one bed, say you're planting tomatoes, you can't put tomatoes again next year there because now the soil is struggling. You must put something else there now. Maybe you can put legumes there, or beans, or a leaf, or fruit, something else, from the four. But never put the same thing in the same place. Very important, right? Because if you plant the same thing in the same bed over and over, you destroy the soil. No? That's what this crop rotation is about.
So when we are planting sugar cane,
yes. That soil is dying. If you plant sugarcane year after year after year, that's why the farmers are using more and more and more fertilizers. And the yield is going less and less and less over time. What farmers must do is they plant, in one season they plant sugarcane. They must plant something else the other season. We have 4 seasons. So at least you can plant 2 crops in a year, but not plant the same thing over there. So if I was a sugarcane farmer, if my sugarcane season is 6 months, after 6 months I'll plant peas in there, or beans, or cassava, or something else to make the soil good again. See? But I won't leave it like that and not plant anything, and then again next year I will plant sugarcane again. No. That's why I showed you the chart, how our soil is so bad because of those practices. Okay, so this is for next time, and I'm done. Compost making. I want to show you guys this pile here. So this pile we made a few weeks ago. I would say about 4 weeks ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this pile, outside, inside, outside, inside. So this pile we're going to turn, we're going to bring it here.
this one.
So when you're turning the compost pile, you're introducing more oxygen, more air, and you're putting water. Air and water now is standing, is going to build up heat again inside. So 2/3 brown, 1/3 green. The 1/3 green is your manure and your green material, weeds and grasses and the food waste. And the brown is everything that's left in your garden that's gone brown. It's very simple, green and brown. And of course, as we are making the pile, we're putting more and more water on. So the pile has lots of water. Okay. The last thing we're going to do is, if you want the pile to break down quicker, you can take any, what they call agitator, to make it go speed up. Take some cow manure, any manure you put in water, we leave it there, and it starts thinking. When we're making this thing, then we just throw over it.
How long do you do?
1 week. Okay. Right? So now that is going to go inside there, is going to make it break down quicker. So can I just make a suggestion? Can we just put some browns over there, then the smell go away? That's it. Okay, thank you. So you guys have made a pile. You see we layered the pile, né? But the total pile is 2/3 brown, 1/3 green. As long as you just remember, more or less. You don't have to be precise like a scientist, just more or less, right? So the browns, make sure the brown is 2/3 of the pile and 1/3 of the pile is the green. And the green is your food waste, your manure, and your green of the leaves and that. Okay? And then you just layer them until you're 1.5 meters high. And of course you're putting water, right? I would suggest when you put the liquid manure in, put more in the center than on the outside. I should have put it in the center. Then you don't have a smell. Now you see there's no flies around here. There's no smell, there's no flies, right? And from today it's going to start cooking cooking. 4 days you come back here, you can turn this pile. The outside in the inside. So if you want this pile to be done in 18 days, you must turn this pile every second day to 18 days. If you want this pile to be finished by 6 weeks, you must turn this pile once every 5 days. So if you want it fast, you can turn every day, every second day. If you want it slow, every 4 days, every 5 days. See? It just depends how fast you want the compost. Guys, if you do this, you can make your own compost. This is your fertilizer. You see, nature gives you this fertilizer. You don't have to go buy it. No? And this is very good for the soil, because in the soil, all the organisms in the soil, the worms and all those things, is happy to have this. And when they're happy, you have healthy plants growing. So lastly, again, you must try to protect it from the sun and from the rain. So we're going to cover it. No? We're going to cover it. Can somebody just take there? Okay. Right, there we are. Okay. Now, remember now, when you turn the compost, you are adding oxygen. Remember, when you turn it, you are introducing oxygen, you are introducing water to make it break down fast. If you just turn without putting water, it won't be fast. You see? So this is what you do. So you take the cover off, you give it a turn, you put water, and make a pile again. On the outside must go in the inside. Okay. Well, I hope this helped you guys. Think about compost differently. Stay away from fertilizers, people. Stay away from insecticides, pesticides, GMOs. Those are not good for us. It don't give us good food. This will give us good food.